everyone, welcome back to Cooking with a Corgi. Tonight we're going to show you how to make a Greek-style flatbread. It's one of my favorite flatbreads and we use it all the time for all sorts of cooking things that we do here. What you're going to need is some regular all-purpose flour, which is in this big container, and then a bit of whole wheat flour, which you have here. You're going to want salt and pepper, these guys here, some olive oil, measuring cups. This is active dry yeast. This is what we use for our yeast. We have some honey here and a little mixing container. We'll mix all the yeast in there. Then we have a container here that we're going to use to let the dough rise. And we have a mixing bowl. And then we have a sheet pan back here that is used for the second proofing of the bread. The first step in this recipe is to make the yeast mixture. So what we have here is 1 1/8 cup of water, 1 1/8 teaspoon of yeast, dry active yeast, and a 1/2 tablespoon of honey. So yeast, this particular yeast really likes to be at a temperature between 100 and 110 degrees. So I'm just checking the water temperature and we're probably 103-ish, which is perfect. So what I'm gonna do is pour in my yeast. I'm gonna add in the honey. Get the honey out. There we go. Add in the honey. I'm gonna give it a little mix up here. Then we're just gonna let this sit for about 5 minutes. Let it foam up. Yeah. Okay, while the yeast is blooming, you can prepare your flour mixtures. So I have my cheat sheet here because I can't remember the quantities. So it's 2.5 cups of all-purpose regular flour. It is a 1/4 cup of the whole wheat flour. It is a 1/2 tablespoon of salt, and it is a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. So we're just gonna mix those all into a bowl, mix them up a little bit, and that's it. The next thing you're gonna do, now that the flour mixture has been put together and the yeast is all nice and foamy, so we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of olive oil to the yeast mixture. Okay. Now we're gonna pour this mixture into the flour. I'm gonna start to knead it. I have to roll up my sleeves for this. It's gonna get dirty. Okay. Start mixing it up. It's now about time to bring it out onto the counter. So there's a little bit of flour here. I'll pour it on the counter. Good enough. And we'll start kneading out on the counter here. If it does get sticky, continue to get sticky, just add a little bit more of the flour. You can tell if you're done if you come over here, you poke it like that. You want it to come back most of the way. So let me poke it again. Yeah, see like that? That came back most of the way. So we're pretty much done with the kneading here. The next thing we're gonna do is put this into a container so that it can rise. Now, we've got ourselves a straight wall container, and the benefit of the straight wall container is that we need to let this rise until it's doubled in size. And with a straight wall, you know exactly when it's doubled in size. So first thing you want to do is add a little olive oil to your container, lubricate the surfaces. Just letting it flow around the bottom mostly, maybe a little of the sides, but just want a nice lubricated surface at the bottom. And then you can add your dough. Put it in there. That, flatten it out. And then I have these little sticky tabs, tiny post-it note things. And what I can do is just put one on the side here. I'll just say the top of this tab is roughly where the top of the dough is. So then when it's twice as high, I know that I'm done. I don't necessarily want to seal it off, but I can put this on and we can put it in a warm area to double in size. dough has doubled in size. You can see by the marker here. Take that off. So the next step is to take the dough out of your rising container, and you're going to break it into tangerine-sized balls, and you're going to put them onto this parchment-lined baking sheet, and then we'll cover it with a tea towel and let them rise until they doubled in size again, which will probably be about another hour. Just cover them up, put them in a dry, warm place to rise again. Okay, so now we've reached the point in the flatbreads where we're going to start cooking them. I find that this is a much smoother operation if you use 2 people, so I've recruited Laura here to help us with the next steps. The first thing you're going to want to do is prepare a oil mixture. We mix together extra virgin olive oil for flavor, because we have good flavor, so we have some in there already, and we add a little bit more, and vegetable oil. The reason why we're mixing the two is because extra virgin olive oil has a very low smoke point, so it's going to create a lot of smoke at a fairly low temperature, whereas vegetable oil has a higher smoke point. The oils that are very colorful or rich and deep in color tend to have more solids in them, and that's what ends up smoking. So your extra virgin olive oil, which is a deep colored oil, smokes a lot more easily than the really light colored vegetable oil. So to heat these guys up, you're going to want to have a large flat bottomed pan, and you're going to put that on the burner and turn that on. Put it on a medium heat, and I will add a little bit of vegetable oil to it as well just to keep it coated, but most of the oil is going to be coming from brushing the doughs. I'm going to take one of the dough balls that you've let rise to double its size, and you're going to flatten it out a little bit, and then you're going to take a rolling pin and flatten it out even further. It's really up to you how thick you want these to be. But we tend to roll ours out to somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch thick. The dough is pretty elastic, so as you saw Laura just pick it up off the counter, it does spring back to a smaller shape, and that's okay. But again, it's all up to your personal preference. Then once you've got it thin enough, you paint on the mixture of olive oil and vegetable oil. Then you're going to put it into the pan, paint the other side, and we're just going to heat it up until they start to brown. It's going to bubble a little bit. Some of those bubbles might get a little black in color, and that's okay. The first few are going to take a little bit longer than the last ones. The last ones may take a few seconds a piece. The first ones could take a minute or 2. Okay, so as you can see around the edges, it's bubbling a little bit. You see some bubbles forming here. You'll even notice maybe that the edges of the dough has risen a bit under the heat. And at this point, it's probably safe to flip this one. Flip it over. Oh, perfect. So you have a nice browning, mostly around the edges. The center tends to rise up from the pan. And you got a couple brown spots here. And we'll cook the other side to the same level, and then you're done. And we just keep repeating until you're done with all the dough balls. Now we've cooked up all of the flatbreads. They look gorgeous. They smell really good. I'm sure they're going to taste really good too. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you try these out and enjoy them as much as we do. Thanks.